2018 Subaru 15. Subaru isn't planning on launching its new 15 until early next year in Britain, but we've driven a pre-production model for the first time. The previous model was rugged and good to drive, but couldn't compete on price or refinement with its main rivals. The new generation aims to change that. It's certainly a step forward in terms of looks, because the new design is actually very handsome. A new grille and lights give it a more modern front end, while those sharp design lines along the sides and rear make it look lower and wider. The plastic cladding around the wheelarches and tough-looking alloy wheels finish off the new look, which hints at the 15's off-road ability without leaning too far into it. Subaru has also upgraded the interior, though not to the same extent. It's been redesigned to be a bit simpler and more upmarket, with a few more soft-touch materials and shiny plastics, but it's not a complete revolution. The twin-screen setup is still there, and the dials and steering wheel are very similar to before as well. It's not nearly as modern as the exterior, and feels cheap compared with most of the car's rivals. At least the new 8-inch infotainment screen is more responsive than before. It will get Android Auto and Apple CarPlay, and is likely to be standard in the UK as well. However, it's a long way behind the slick system offered in the Skoda Kodiaq and those of other European rivals, because the graphics look dated and it's not as easy to use. The seats are bigger, more comfortable and more supportive, though, which is useful both on the road and off-it. To that end, there's also a new X mode button on the center console that sets the car up for low-grip surfaces and turns on hill descent control. We tried the car on a dusty off-road track, where its ability to climb loose gravel on a sharp incline impressed us, as well as its smooth descents on similar surfaces. Subaru is rightly proud of its permanent four-wheel drive system, and it proves itself here. The 15th is probably among the best off-roaders in its class. But it sits in a class where most buyers choose front-wheel drive, and only ever use their cars on the road. The new 15 is a little more expensive than its rivals as a result, although Subaru hasn't decided on pricing yet, but we're told it will be relatively close to what the current car costs. We didn't get the chance to try our pre-production test car on the road, and instead were limited to a super smooth test track in Austria. The previous model had a fairly hard ride in the UK, but the new generation is better to drive. There's less body roll and corners and the steering is a bit sharper. Torque vectoring means it can brake the inside wheels on a corner, tightening your line. It makes the 15th feel more agile, and while it's not as fun as a Mazda CX-5, it's still pretty good to drive. However, an uncompetitive powertrain doesn't do the 15th any favors. The naturally aspirated 2.0-liter boxer petrol engine is smooth and responsive, though you won't notice the extra 5 bhp it has in the new model, especially as max torque is unchanged, at 196 Nm. Those used to the turbocharged engines in the current crop of crossovers will notice the lack of low-end torque, because you need to use the revs to get the best performance out of the engine. The Lineartronic CVT gearbox is one of the best of its type, and actually feels slightly more natural in this new model, but it still sends the revs soaring if you put your foot down because it's the only way to make swift progress. That means the powertrain is still noisy and feels old-fashioned.